Hola, muy buenos días. Estamos aquí transmitiendo desde Radio Poder de Dios en el 100.7 FM. Parece que será otro hermoso día en el valle. Y no olvide, este fin de semana, salir y visitar algunas de las áreas verdes que están a nuestro alrededor.
It's beautiful, but it's a harsh beauty. I mean, everything will stab you, prick you, cut you. Thumbelina's thorn scrub. You fall down in it, you're gonna bleed. But it sure is beautiful. Thorn forest, as the name implies, is a forest that is thorny.
It is thorny. It's not something you're gonna wanna walk in barefoot, let's say.
So if you imagine walking through a forest among trees, a thorn forest is very different. Instead of growing up, trees and shrubs grow out.
It's a really unique plant community. Once you see it, and you really get to know it, it just comes alive.
Many people, when they think of amazing wildlife places, they think of Yellowstone, where you're looking at a grizzly bear 1,000 yards away. And in the thorn scrub, you have to learn to appreciate the smaller details. And once you kind of learn how to appreciate the lower Rio Grande Valley and the thorn forest, you realize it's this magical place that's just teeming with wildlife.
In the Rio Grande Valley, the level of biodiversity is great. It's fair to say in the continental United States, one of the most biodiverse areas that we have. The Rio Grande Valley can be looked upon as being kind of a bridge to the tropics because of where it's located. Just right here on the southern tip of Texas, we're on the edge of the tropics. It's created this very unique opportunity for a lot of species that are found only in South Texas. We have over 500 species of birds that live in or migrate through the area. About 400 species of documented butterflies, dragonflies, and damselflies. There's some good 48 species of mammals. One of the unique characteristics of thorn forest is its density and diversity of plants. Anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000 individual woody plants per acre.
You've got about 30, 40, 50 different species kind of growing in close proximity to each other, overlapping. Basically, their branches coming together to form this incredible thicket, you know, that all of these wildlife species utilize for cover, for habitat. Without that, all of these species would not be able to be here. Thorn forest once covered most of the Rio Grande Valley. And then we get into the early 1900s, the story begins to change.
This region was marketed as a tropical paradise. And so ads were developed that were sent to St. Louis, Missouri, to Chicago, Illinois, to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to New York State, selling this Magic Valley, this tropical paradise.
The landscape is basically carved up for irrigated agriculture. From that point on, just this process of very intensive farming, which put us on the map.
Texas is a vast and wonderful state, now additionally famous for its fine quality grapefruit, grown in a relatively small area known as the lower Rio Grande Valley. This now veritable garden spot was a vast wilderness of mesquite brush and cactus, wild, desolate, and uninviting. Then came the railroad, and in its wake, as has ever been the rule, progress and development.
And then come about 40, 50 years ago, then we start to see a transition into urbanization. We've lost approximately 90% of our original thorn forest habitat. We've got essentially 5 to 10% of that left. What remains is very much a fragmented landscape. Patches here and there, sometimes separated by distances of 20, 30, 40 miles.
we're talking about 5% remaining. But it's not 5% in a single fragment, it's 5% in many little fragments. So that's not a good 5%.
There's very good reason to be concerned about the status of thorn forest today. We already know that there are over 40 federally threatened and endangered species that call the lower Rio Grande Valley their home. And if we don't act, that list will only continue to grow.
To me, South Texas is home, and this is habitat that I grew up with, and I want to see it conserved.
If we don't embrace restoration, if we don't embrace conservation of the ecosystem, and we let this ecosystem continue to disappear, we lose the right, we lose the ability to introduce future generations of our families to these species, to this incredibly rich landscape that is so special.
Okay, boys and girls, we are going to create our very own thorn forest. And you are going to select 3. How many? 3 pictures. It could be of a bird, a tree, something that we learned that lives in the thorn forest.
The objective of the Thorn Forest Conservation Plan is to building regional connectivity for this ecosystem, restoring this ecosystem strategically. We've got this massive network of irrigation easements that were set in place 100 years ago for agriculture. We have over 1,600 miles of it within the Rio Grande Valley. It's not that much of a stretch to say, well, why can't we work to actually introduce some habitat into those linear spaces and create connectivity? This is one of our main canals from one of our irrigation districts, and it actually comes through the heart of this refuge tract. The beauty of it is that we do have thorn forests growing along the banks of this larger main canal. And so wildlife that are originating or having breeding territories inside of this refuge parcel, they will actually get into this corridor that the canal provides with that thorn forest, and they'll ride that north for dozens of miles. Eventually they'll run into those other fragments of thorn forest that are further afield. And so it's that concept. If you multiply that over this larger landscape, then you've got that concept of connectivity coming together. And that's what we're trying to restore over time.
Corridors are really important when you think of animals that really don't have the ability to just get up and fly to the next patch. So for anything that's really tied to the ground, such as bobcats, coyotes, Texas tortoises, indigo snakes, and even some of the birds that just don't have that as part of their ecology to fly large distances to another patch are going to be challenged if there aren't corridors that connect these habitat patches of thorn forests.
You're looking at areas that have been farmed, that were cleared of that thorn forest originally, maybe 70, 80, 100 years ago. So now it's the idea of us going back in and restoring habitat on those parcels.
We're going to the first plant site where we planted 10 acres with the 10,000 trees, part 1. Part 2 would be right around here.
It's one thing to espouse the ability to conserve something, but it's a whole other world to actually, roll your sleeves up and to understand that you've got to do pretty much everything in your power to find a way to create more of that habitat, to restore it or conserve it.
Growing up with it, I never really thought of it as something that you'd want to restore, and I didn't realize it was something that was being lost until I was an adult. I jumped on the bandwagon as soon as I heard there was a movement to do this. I've known, big-time guys that have bought land to turn it back into its natural state, and I thought, wow, what a great idea. I wish I could do that one day, and maybe on a smaller scale, but if enough people like me do it, it matters.
From the time we restore an area to the time when we basically will have maximum usage for a lot of the species that we're purposely trying to recover will be somewhere between about 15 and 25 years. We're not talking about a process that takes hundreds of years. We don't have hundreds of years. We grow approximately 200,000 seedlings here at the Maranoff Nursery annually. We actually go out into the different patches of thorn forest out there on the landscape, and we do what we call our wild seed collection.
This right here, these are the seeds that we're looking for.
Those seeds in the bank, a certain portion of them, come out every year, and they turn into seedlings. And then those seedlings make it out onto the landscape. That's what we plant to create this habitat.
Amigos, si buscan algo que hacer para este fin de semana que sea emocionante, venga con nosotros este sábado por la mañana para ayudar a plantar árboles nativos en el evento de Río Reforestación en el Refugio Nacional de Vida Silvestre del Valle del Río Grande. Vengan, les esperamos.
Rio Reforestation is our preeminent public planting event, and we invite essentially the entire community from the valley to come out and do this planting with us. Whether it's school districts, community groups, everyone's invited, and it's a sight to behold. It is emblematic of the larger effort that we're all putting in to restore this ecosystem.
Seeing more and more people are learning to understand the value of this effort really gives me great hope.
If we build on the momentum over the past few decades of restoration work that has begun, we really have an incredible opportunity to preserve the biodiversity that's here, for even increasing that biodiversity over time.
We've got landowners, state agencies, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NGOs, the general public that have come together around rehabilitating a lot of that country. There were agricultural fields in the 1980s that you go out there today on our amazing brush. So there's a lot of proof that it can happen fairly quickly.
When we restore native habitats, we have a shot at reconnecting with the land, which is really what gave us the spirit to survive this part of the world.
I drew a green jay, a Texas tortoise, and a prickly pear cactus.
A Texas ebony.
This is an ocelot.
We have the Texas tortoise.
This is my thorn forest.
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 Me da esperanza de que este ecosistema se pueda recuperar, se pueda salvar, si logramos motivar a nuestra comunidad a que pueda ver que esto es algo que le pertenece.
I look at the amount of conserved land that my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, they set aside that for us. And I am so thankful for that. And I feel like it's really our responsibility and our duty to pass it on and give that to our kids. Give them a place that still has wild places. Give them a country that still has hope for endangered species to recover. Give them a thorn forest that's 20 years getting developed so that they don't have to start from scratch.